Hi everyone, this is Kaylin and this is my YouTube video on my personal philosophy of healthcare and nursing. So what I did for this video is I looked through the ANA scope of practice and I found specific quotes that identified with my philosophy, and you'll see these used throughout the presentation. So the overall theme for my philosophy is respect for human dignity, and you'll see this throughout everything that I talk about. I'm going to touch on ethics, policy, and legal. So respect for the inherent dignity, worth, unique attributes, and human rights of all individuals. This really resonates with my personal philosophy because I think that every individual deserves the right to choice in what they want in healthcare. Whether we have an ethical dilemma with it or not, that individual has that specific choice to do what is right for them. And, that's going to provide the unique attributes that we see throughout healthcare. And it's those unique attributes that if we allow those individuals to make those choices, it's going to, help with their dignity and worth. Another ANA quote that I resonated with was, "The nurse's primary commitment is to the recipients of nursing healthcare services. Each plan of care must reflect fundamental commitment of nursing to the uniqueness of the patient." This one's kind of self-explanatory, but essentially what this is conveying is that every patient needs to have an individual health care plan. As advanced practice nurses, it's going to be advantageous to us to individualize these healthcare plans because the patient is going to become more compliant, feel safer with care, and there'll be more drastic changes in healthcare. And so, for example, like more compliance with medications, diet choices, or lifestyle changes. Lastly, in the ethics portion, the nurse establishes, maintains, and improves the ethical environment that is conducive, safe, and quality healthcare. Essentially, safety is a big thing in my philosophy. The nurses need to be practicing within their scope. I think that, as nurses practice in their scope, it's going to create a safe environment that will ultimately create excellent quality of care. I'm going to touch on policy. So the nurse owes the same duties to self as to others, including the responsibility to promote health and safety, preserve wholeness of character and integrity, maintain competence, and continue personal and professional growth. Kind of three big things I want to talk about in this. Again, patient safety needs to be of utmost priority for us as nurses and advanced practice nurses. The second thing I want to talk about is staff safety. I believe that in the future there needs to be more policies created to keep our healthcare workers safe. This has kind of been a hot topic within the last year and a lot of media coverage. In order to have a safe environment, our healthcare workers need to feel safe in the environment that they're working, and this then conveys how it basically like conveys how well the nurse will be able to take care for the patient, and ultimately have an overall safe environment. And then the personal and professional growth, this kind of falls in lines with collaboration between all healthcare providers, and this opens line of communication and allows all the healthcare providers to communicate with the patient and each other to create the best plan for the client. And then legally, nurses must participate in the development, implementation, and review and adherence to policies that promotes patient health and safety, reduces errors and waste, and establishes a culture of safety. As you can see, there it is again, safety. So in order to create a safe environment, I think that policies and procedures need to be standardized. There is a lot of movement in healthcare from facility to facility or different types of clinics. And if we have standardized policy and procedures, this will allow like a reduction of errors ultimately save money and minimize waste. Another interesting thing that I thought about with my philosophy in regards to this quote is, what if we had universal electronic medical records or universal charting system? Say, like, I went to get treated in New York and then a week later needed to go be seen in Seattle. So this could ultimately, be safer for the patient and the provider. Um, it can reduce polypharmacy, and the essentially the medical record could provide, an overview of the patient, if it was in a universal system, from everything from vaccines, personal history, family history, social history, different treatments throughout life, surgeries, etc. And then I wanted to talk about training. I think that to establish a culture of safety, there needs to be more training in these facilities and continuing education. Like, for example, Colorado and nurses, they don't require a specific hours of continuing education. And I think that to provide a safe culture, we can't rely on what we learned specifically only in nursing school. We need to keep up to date on the different changes and policies and different ways to treat patients. Need to keep up to date on these things in order to provide a safe environment for the patient and safe care plan. Lastly, this ANA quote resonated with me. The nurse promotes, advocates for, and protects the rights of health and safety for the patient. This is HIPAA. HIPAA it still needs to be, and it needs to continue to be of utmost importance to protect that personal health information for the individual. It is very important that none of the personal health information gets jeopardized of an individual, and that the patient feels safe in where they get their care and how they get their care. So there you have it, you guys. That's my personal philosophy of healthcare and nursing. I hope you enjoyed this, and I look forward to your responses.